In the dim, smoke-choked streets of Victorian England, where coal dust hung thick in the air and industrial grime coated every surface, cleanliness was not a simple daily habit. It was a constant struggle. It was a sign of status, a measure of morality, and for many, something just out of reach. This was a world of sharp contrasts. In one part of London, the wealthy bathed in scented water, wrapped in fine towels, and dressed in spotless clothing. In another, entire families lived in overcrowded rooms, sharing a single source of water, if they had access to water at all. To understand Victorian hygiene is to step into a world where dirt was everywhere. And yet, the idea of cleanliness was becoming more important than ever before. The Industrial Revolution had transformed Britain into a global powerhouse, but it came at a cost. Cities expanded rapidly, drawing in workers from rural areas. Housing couldn't keep up. Streets became crowded, waste piled up, and the air itself turned toxic. Coal smoke darkened the skies. Factories poured out pollution day and night. And beneath it all, the infrastructure of the city, its water and sewage systems, remained dangerously outdated. For the working class, daily life was defined by hardship. In cramped tenements, families often shared a single room. Water had to be carried from public pumps, sometimes from streets away. In many cases, it was already contaminated. Bathing, something we take for granted today, was a rare luxury. For many families, the only opportunity to wash properly came once a week, usually on a Saturday night. A single tub of water would be prepared, often in the kitchen. And then, one by one, each family member would bathe in it. The father went first, then the mother, then the children in order of age. By the time it reached the youngest child, the water was dark, murky, and barely usable. It was from this practice that the phrase, "don't throw the baby out with the bathwater," is believed to have originated, a dark reflection of just how filthy conditions could become. Public bathhouses began to appear in the mid-19th century, offering some relief. For a small fee, people could access clean water, cold baths for the cheapest price, and hot baths for a little more. But these bathhouses were more than just places to wash. They became social spaces, places where people gathered, talked, and shared news. In a city where privacy was rare, even a brief moment of cleanliness could feel like dignity restored. While the poor struggled, the wealthy lived in a completely different world. In large townhouses and country estates, bathing was a carefully managed ritual. Servants carried heavy buckets of hot water up flights of stairs, filling copper or tin bathtubs. Perfumed oils and scented soaps turned the act of bathing into something luxurious. For the upper classes, cleanliness wasn't just about health, it was about appearance. To look clean was to be respectable. To appear dirty was to risk being judged, no matter your true circumstances. Clothing became one of the clearest markers of social status. But keeping clothes clean was no easy task. Washing garments required time, labor, and access to water, resources that were often limited. So people found creative solutions. Detachable collars and cuffs became popular among men. These parts of the shirt, which became dirty the fastest, could be removed and washed separately. This allowed even those with modest means to maintain a polished appearance. For women, clothing was even more complex. Dresses were large, heavy, and difficult to clean. Instead of washing them regularly, women wore undergarments designed to absorb sweat and oils. These could be changed and cleaned more frequently, preserving the outer garments. Often, dresses were simply aired out rather than washed. Hung near windows or outside, they were left to freshen in the air. This practice gave rise to the phrase, airing dirty laundry, a concept that would later take on a more symbolic meaning. Hair care presented its own challenges. Without easy access to hot water, washing hair frequently was difficult. Many people relied on alternatives. Powders made from flour or starch were brushed through the hair to absorb oil and dirt, an early form of dry shampoo. Hair tonics became popular, promising shine and health. Some contained natural oils, while others included more unusual ingredients: animal fats, perfumes, and plant extracts. One of the most popular products was a fragrant oil used to style hair, so widely used that it led to a new household item: Small cloths placed over furniture to protect it from grease. Even personal grooming carried risks. The Victorian obsession with beauty led to the use of dangerous substances. Some cosmetic products contained toxic ingredients like lead or arsenic, used to create pale, fashionable skin. The pursuit of appearance often came at the cost of health. Oral hygiene was another area where modern standards would be shocked. Toothbrushes existed, but they were expensive and not widely available until later in the century. Many people used homemade methods, cleaning their teeth with cloths, or using mixtures made from chalk, charcoal, or crushed materials. Some of these methods were abrasive and damaging, wearing down enamel rather than protecting it. Despite these limitations, there was a growing awareness that cleanliness mattered. But there was also confusion. Many doctors believed in the miasma theory, the idea that diseases were spread by bad air. According to this belief, foul smells themselves were dangerous. As a result, efforts to improve hygiene often focused on eliminating odors rather than addressing the true causes of disease. And yet, even within this misunderstanding, progress was being made. Reformers and thinkers began to push for better living conditions. They argued that clean water, proper waste disposal, and improved ventilation were essential for health. Some individuals stood out in this movement. One of them was a nurse who believed strongly in the importance of cleanliness. She emphasized regular hand washing, fresh air, and proper sanitation in caring for the sick. Her ideas would go on to change the way hospitals operated forever. At the same time, scientific understanding was slowly evolving. New discoveries began to challenge old beliefs. Evidence started to show that diseases were not spread by air alone, but by invisible organisms. This shift didn't happen overnight. Many resisted the new ideas. But over time, the connection between cleanliness and health became clearer. Perhaps nowhere was the need for change more obvious than in London's sanitation crisis. By the mid-19th century, the River Thames had become dangerously polluted. It was filled with waste from homes, industries, and outdated sewage systems. During a particularly hot summer, the smell became unbearable. The stench spread across the city, affecting daily life and even reaching the halls of government. It became impossible to ignore. This crisis forced action. Engineers and planners began designing new sewer systems, massive projects that would transform the city. These systems carried waste away from populated areas, improving both sanitation and public health. The results were dramatic. Outbreaks of disease began to decline. Life expectancy slowly increased. And for the first time, cities began to function in a way that supported health rather than undermined it. At the same time, innovations in hygiene products began to emerge. Soap, once expensive and limited, became more widely available. New manufacturing techniques made it cheaper and more effective. Advertising played a role as well, linking cleanliness with respectability and success. Cleanliness was no longer just practical, it became aspirational. Public baths expanded, offering affordable access to washing facilities. More homes began to include indoor plumbing. Slowly, the gap between classes, while still significant, began to narrow in terms of access to hygiene. Hospitals also underwent a transformation. Practices changed. Cleanliness became a priority. Instruments were sterilized, hands were washed, and environments were kept as sanitary as possible. The impact was profound. Survival rates improved, infections decreased, and medicine began to move toward a more scientific, evidence-based approach. By the end of the Victorian era, the world had changed. Not completely, not perfectly, but significantly. The fight for cleanliness had reshaped cities, transformed medicine, and altered daily life. What began as a struggle against dirt had become a revolution in health. And yet, it's important to remember how difficult that journey was. For millions of people, cleanliness wasn't a choice, it was a privilege. Every bucket of water carried, every garment cleaned, every effort to maintain dignity in harsh conditions was part of a larger story. A story of survival, a story of progress, and a story that still shapes the way we live today. Because the systems we rely on, the clean water, the sanitation, the hygiene standards, didn't appear overnight. They were built through hardship, discovery, and determination. The Victorians lived in a world where dirt was everywhere, but they refused to accept it. And in doing so, they helped create the cleaner, safer world we know today.